Warning, this video may contain spoilers for the TV show or movie that we discuss in this video. If you have not yet watched the TV show or movie that this video is about, please come back to the video at a later time after you have watched the content that was discussed. You have been warned.
Rising with each beat of the music is bringing real flames in the fire that keeps burning. We're inviting the night in.
Tactical nuke incoming!
How's it going, everybody? This is Novakast back with another video where we're going to be talking about Final Space. Season 2, episodes 7 and 8. And I gotta say, these episodes were actually kind of fun. Like, truly. I'm not lying. At least, you know, in my personal opinion, they weren't bad. But anyways, starting off, episode 7, which is titled The First Time We Met, or First Time They Met. This was more of a Nightfall episode, where it's, to an extent, like, kind of analyzing the relationship with Nightfall and her Gary. And I say her Gary because apparently the Gary that she knew isn't the same one. In fact, if anything, both Garys, her Gary and the Gary we know, are totally different opposites when it comes down to what they did in life. Whereas the Gary that we follow, wasn't part of the Space Force, coalition or whatever the fuck it was called with the previous season. With Nightfall's Gary, apparently he was. He was a captain or a commander or whatever he was. And they actually, instead of Gary embarrassing himself and being sent to prison, they actually hit it up and, had a lot of great moments. And all in all, it's a really cool way to analyze the character, especially with finding out that apparently in every single version of her trying to save the past, it's not Quinn that's the one that ends up destroying the rift. It's actually Gary. So it kind of explains, and she actually makes this says this line where it's always together but never meant to be, which it's thinking about it, it is so freaking tragic when it comes down to this character, especially with her being so close but at the same time so far from having a relationship with Gary. So it's sad, it really is. Following up with that, we also have moments where apparently in the beginning of this whole situation, because during this whole thing, the power is shut off at the ship, or on the ship, and Quinn, or Nightfall, is drawing all the power of the ship to this Vertrasium, I think it was called, where it makes it's basically like a giant virtual room, or VR room. But anyways, they end up, or actually no, better yet, holodeck. That's actually the better way to describe it. So they end up drawing power. Before that, we have Kevin, who apparently unleashes a legion of buggy and homicidal Kevins who want vengeance on Clarence. So while Gary as well as Nightfall are stuck in the holodeck, Hugh and Mooncake are stuck in a closet while Hugh's making food, trying to rewire the ship. We also have Ash, Clarence, Fox, and Little Kato trying to stop the legion of Kevins, who become a super Kevin. And their only chance to stopping him is by literally hurling him into space through the airlock. And honestly, it's actually a really cool scene. We do end up having, there's a scene where, there's one Kevin, one of the buggy Kevins left. And before anything else happens, the Kevin that we follow, or at least the Kevin that we have, and it just rips out its heart and kills it, which I thought was hilarious. Like, there's only room for one, Kevin. Hacha! Like, literally just, like, making a karate noise and freaking, like, ripping out its heart from its chest, which I thought was hilarious. And, like, the final shot is the Mega Kevin, like, hurled into space, commenting on how cold it is. Oh, no, it was great. Now, this episode, I will say, is, like, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This was, you know, interesting, especially since, you know, when it comes down to Nightfall, we get to see more of Nightfall and her backstory and so on. And, like, kind of see what she's gone through thus, or, like, throughout her travels. But, anyway. Next episode is episode 8, which is The Remembered. This one was, interesting. Because, it involves time travel, as well as some really weird shenanigans to an extent, where they are going. At first, they're going through an asteroid field, and it turns out it's not an actual asteroid field. It's actually a nest of time worms, and basically a couple of them hatch. One of them ends up eating our heroes, and they're brought 3 years into the past, and it is on the same home planet that was controlled by the Lord Commander. Now, I'm just gonna say there was a couple times where I'm just like, oh my god, no they didn't, because oh my gosh, no they didn't. To think of just the Winters characters that I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, you'd think that they would go through a lot, but turns out, nope. And I think better people have said it better than me, but to quote Team 4-star Cell, or Perfect Cell, multiverse theory's a bitch. It's literally, or time travel's a bitch. I think that's more accurate, because, so, oh my gosh, where do I begin? They literally end up splitting into two teams, with Ash, Fox, and Little Kato trying to find Avocado, and Gary, Clarence, Mooncake, and Nightfall going after, oh, and Kevin, by the way, trying to find a dimensional key that apparently the Lord Commander had. So they end up doing that, and in order to disguise themselves, Clarence and Nightfall disguise themselves as guards after procuring a couple of uniforms, whereas Gary unfortunately has to wear the skin of another dead alien. By the way, it gets worse. It gets worse. Like, really, really fucking worse. Because after this, they go to a monstertorium, where they find past Mooncake, and Gary and Mooncake set it up so that way the past Mooncake goes and finds Gary. Which, honestly, that's pretty cool, the way that they set that up. Now, here's where things get worse, to an extent, because they end up getting caught, and it turns out it was, I think it was Delene Winters, aka the skin of the alien that Gary wore in season 1. And what ends up happening is, it turns out the skin that Gary was wearing at this particular moment was the skin of her father. And she realizes right away what's going on because a piece of it comes off. And one thing leads to another where she rips the skin off of Gary. And I guess due to the shock, she has a full-blown heart attack. And dies. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't stop there. No. Because again, time travel's a bitch. We end up seeing a moment where they're like, what do we do with the body? I'm like, oh, Clarence is like, oh, I got an idea. And just tosses it in the dumpster. Everybody's shocked, but we come to realize that, wait, no. Because they tossed the body in the dumpster the exact same time that Clarence would be stopping by that said dumpster to pick up the dead body. I am not fucking kidding. So in a sense, like really thinking about it now, Gary is the reason. Gary and the crew are the reason why the alien guy and his children want him dead. And he'll never know, which is sad. But anyway, going further than that, they're able to obtain, thanks to younger Avocado, they're able to obtain the dimensional key and end up escaping through another time worm. By the way, in this episode, we get introduced to a character by the name of, I think it was Time Swap Sammy, who basically gives them the rundown of all the rules and stuff about time travel. Which, I'm sorry, whenever we talk about time travel, I always go back to that whole that line from not Back to the Future, but Avengers Endgame, where we have Ant-Man realizing, so Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit. That was the first thing that came to mind when it came to the whole rules of time travel and all that crap. But anyways, he shows up because he wants them to return the dimensional key that they stole. And in order to... So it seems like they're not leaving empty-handed. They decide, oh, wait a minute. What if we try to use the worm to try to save Avocado? And we'll give you the dimensional key. So sure enough, Time Swap Sammy agrees to these terms. And literally ends up they bring him to the moment where Avocado, I'm using quotes, died. So the goal is to try to save Avocado before he completely dies, and bring him back to the ship, and go back further. Go back through the worm in order to survive. Now, here's the catch: they have to leave one person behind. Hence, time swap, I guess, as the Time Swap Sammy mentioned. So, at first, Little Kato volunteers, but as they try to complete the mission to save Avocado, like the moment where he took a bomb to the chest, both Little Kato and Gary's line, I guess, runs out, and Gary decides to cut his line, grab Avocado, and toss him to Little Kato so that way Little Kato can take care of him. And afterwards, after he falls back to the planet, he goes back to the jail, or the prison, where he finds the wounded Lord Commander. Now, if you guys remember in Season 1, this is while they were trying to rescue Little Kato, Kevin and Mooncake, or Kevin was using Mooncake to blast at the Lord Commander. So at this point, the Lord Commander's severely wounded. And we have Kevin, who, or not Kevin, but Gary, who basically, tells the Lord Commander that he fucked up and he was going to die. And that if they kill him, then everything won't come to pass. But it turns out, again, time travel's a bitch. No matter what, the timeline works as it's supposed to be. We end up having, the Lord Commander being beamed up just before Gary is about to kill him. And we end with Gary pretty much waiting several months for the ship to return and reunite with everybody. However, something else happened. And apparently, due to the bomb blast, Avocado has forgotten everybody. Like, he doesn't remember anybody's names or who they are, what they were doing. So, now it's up to, I guess at this point, it's now up to Gary and everybody to, try to help Avocado regain his memories. At least that's what I'm assuming for, the next several episodes. But, anywho, I enjoyed this. I actually really enjoyed this. Out of the two, if I were to pick out of the two, gosh, that's hard because both of them have their strengths, and I've been enjoying this show a lot. Like, extremely a lot. I love the touching moments when it comes down to episode 7, but I love the concept of them dealing with time travel and shit for episode 8. So, all in all, great episode. And great episode for episode 7 too. So, with that, I think I might go ahead and end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one and take care. Peace.
2, 3, 5.